Let me ask you something. If a man had 1,000 women to choose from, what would make him stop, pause, and pick you? Not for a night, not just for attention, but for real? Most people think it's about being prettier, funnier, or more impressive than the rest. But here's the truth, none of that is what makes someone unforgettable. What makes him choose you is something far simpler and far more powerful. And the crazy part, you only need to do it once. When we talk about attention in today's world, we have to recognize just how scarce it really is. Think about it for a moment. Everyone is busy, distracted, scrolling, swiping, moving from one thing to the next. Men are no exception. In fact, the illusion is that because a man may have dozens of options available to him, he is somehow giving meaningful attention to all of them. The truth is, he isn't. His attention may be scattered, but it isn't deep. He may have 1,000 options, but very few of them will ever capture him in a way that lasts beyond a quick moment. This is where the power of scarcity of attention comes in. When you understand how rare real focus is, you realize how much impact it can have when you're the one who receives it, or even better, when you're the one who commands it. Most people confuse presence with availability. Just because someone is available to him doesn't mean he values their presence. The women who stand out are the ones who create a moment that feels unforgettable. That doesn't mean being louder, flashier, or more aggressive than anyone else. It means understanding that when you make someone stop and really notice you, even if it's just once, you've separated yourself from the endless noise of other interactions. It's about depth, not duration. 10 seconds of real eye contact, of laughter, of making him feel understood, can be more valuable than 10 days of shallow conversations. That's the difference between being another option in a crowded room and being the one who lingers in his mind long after the room is empty. Attention is like currency. The more easily someone gives it away, the less valuable it seems. If he's tossing little pieces of attention to everyone, those pieces don't carry much weight. But when you manage to hold his attention, not through performance but through authenticity, that moment becomes powerful. It's not about forcing him to look at you or desperately trying to win him over. It's about offering something he doesn't get anywhere else. The experience of being seen, heard, and genuinely connected. Men are not immune to the human need for connection. The difference is that they often bury that need under distractions or choices. When you cut through all that by simply being real, you stand out without even trying. Another thing to remember is that attention feeds memory. A man can meet hundreds of people, but he only remembers the ones who created a different kind of energy when they were around. That could be a conversation where you shared something that mattered to you, or the way you laughed in a moment that felt spontaneous and unforced. The detail doesn't matter as much as the feeling. He will forget faces, outfits, and names, but he will not forget how someone made him feel. If he feels light, if he feels alive, if he feels understood, he will think of you even when you're not around. And that thought is what makes you stand out against a sea of other options. So the scarcity of attention is not something to fear. It's something to use to your advantage. Instead of worrying about how many people he could be talking to, focus on the one thing that others are likely overlooking, creating a real moment. That is what he craves, even if he doesn't admit it. That is what makes someone unforgettable. Authenticity is one of the most misunderstood yet most powerful qualities when it comes to creating a lasting impression. People often think they need to put on a performance to stand out, to compete, or to make themselves appealing. They exaggerate qualities, hide their quirks, or project a version of themselves they believe others want to see. The problem with that approach is that it creates a temporary illusion, not a genuine connection. A man might be intrigued at first by the surface level act, but deep down he senses when something doesn't feel natural. Authenticity, on the other hand, bypasses all the noise and resonates with him on a level that is both emotional and undeniable. When you allow yourself to show up as you are, without masks or pretenses, you create a space that feels refreshing compared to the performance-driven world he is used to. What makes authenticity so magnetic is that it's rare. So many people are busy curating their image that they forget to simply be themselves. Think of it this way: when everyone is trying to fit a certain mold, the person who dares to show her real personality becomes unforgettable. Whether that's showing your humor, your vulnerability, your passion for something you care about, or even your flaws, it gives him something real to connect to. Instead of wondering who you're pretending to be, he gets to experience who you actually are. That honesty creates trust, and trust is the foundation of attraction that lasts. He can admire looks, he can enjoy chemistry, but he cannot build with someone if he doesn't trust the version of them he sees. Being authentic also demonstrates confidence in a way that nothing else can. Confidence doesn't mean being the loudest in the room or the most impressive on paper. It means being comfortable enough with yourself that you don't need to perform for approval. That energy is powerful because it says, "I know who I am, and I don't need to change it for you." Men are naturally drawn to that because it sets you apart from the majority who are busy trying to prove themselves. Instead of chasing validation, you invite respect. When he feels that you are not bending over backward to win him, he realizes that being with you is a privilege, not something to be taken for granted. Authenticity also allows for moments of real emotional impact. When you say what you actually feel instead of what you think you should say, you create vulnerability. And vulnerability, though it may feel scary, is what creates intimacy. For example, instead of trying to impress him with perfect stories or calculated charm, imagine sharing something meaningful or admitting a truth about yourself. That openness doesn't push him away. It draws him closer because it makes him feel safe to be real as well. In a world where men are often expected to be strong, stoic, or detached, your authenticity gives him permission to drop his guard. That's where true connection begins. What's equally important to understand is that authenticity cannot be faked. If you try to force yourself to appear natural while still hiding behind a facade, it comes across as calculated. Real authenticity is effortless. It's in the way you laugh without worrying if it sounds too loud, the way you admit when you don't know something instead of pretending, or the way you talk about something you love with genuine excitement. Those are the moments that shine brighter than any polished act ever could. He may have many people around him trying to catch his eye, but the one who makes him feel like he's with someone genuine is the one who stands out. When you think about what people truly remember in their interactions, it's not the surface details but the emotional impact. A man may meet countless women, some of them stunning, others witty, and many of them seemingly perfect on paper, but what stays in his memory is not the list of qualities. What lingers is the way he felt in her presence. This is the essence of unique emotional impact. Human beings are wired to recall emotions more vividly than facts. You can forget someone's name, forget what they wore, even forget where you met them, but you don't forget the way they made you feel. That imprint is far stronger than any checklist of traits, and it's the reason why, even if he has 1,000 other options, one person still stands out among them all. The mistake many people make is focusing too much on presentation rather than connection. They obsess over appearance, rehearsed lines, or strategies to impress, believing those will make them unforgettable. While those things might capture temporary attention, they don't create an anchor in his memory. What anchors someone is laughter that felt effortless, a conversation that touched on something real, or the experience of feeling understood without judgment. Those emotional exchanges carry weight because they go beyond the transactional level of attraction and enter into the realm of intimacy. Intimacy doesn't always mean romance or vulnerability in a heavy sense. Sometimes it's simply the ease of being with someone who makes you feel lighter, more energized, or more yourself. Men, like anyone else, are searching for experiences that stand out in contrast to the routine. When his days are filled with repetitive conversations or surface-level interactions, the person who offers him something genuine instantly becomes different. It doesn't require being overly dramatic or trying to orchestrate a deep moment. Often, it comes from small, natural exchanges that strike an emotional chord. It could be sharing a joke that makes him laugh harder than he has in weeks, asking a question that no one else bothered to ask, or noticing something about him that makes him feel seen in a way others overlook. Those moments hit differently because they create a spark of emotional resonance that lingers long after the interaction ends. What makes emotional impact unique is that it cannot be replicated in the same way by someone else. A man might meet two equally attractive women, but the one who leaves a lasting impression will be the one who made him feel something distinct. That distinct feeling could be warmth, comfort, excitement, or inspiration. Whatever it is, it sets her apart because emotions are personal, and once tied to a specific person, they are hard to detach. That is why a single genuine moment of connection can outweigh dozens of shallow interactions. He may not consciously analyze why he keeps thinking about you, but subconsciously, it is tied to the emotional shift he experienced in your presence. The beauty of creating unique emotional impact is that it doesn't require perfection. In fact, trying to be perfect often blocks it. Emotional resonance usually happens in imperfection, the laugh that comes at the wrong time, the story that reveals vulnerability, or the unfiltered excitement when you talk about something you love. These imperfect but real moments cut through the polished performances he might see elsewhere. They are memorable precisely because they are raw and human. And in a world filled with endless choices, the realness of that emotional imprint is what makes you unforgettable. Boundaries are one of the most powerful tools you have when it comes to setting yourself apart, yet they are so often misunderstood. Many people believe that saying yes to everything, being endlessly accommodating, and constantly proving their availability will make someone value them more. The opposite is true. When you give without limit, when you bend over backward to be whatever he needs, you don't inspire appreciation, you inspire complacency. Boundaries create value because they show that you know your worth and that your time, energy, and attention are not available to just anyone. In a world where options seem endless, it is the person who demonstrates standards who becomes rare and therefore magnetic. The reason boundaries matter so much is that they communicate something silently but powerfully. You respect yourself. When you respect yourself, others instinctively do the same. A man may enjoy the company of someone who is always agreeable, but he won't deeply admire her. Admiration comes when he sees that you have lines you don't allow anyone to cross, not out of pride or stubbornness, but out of self-respect. That admiration is what transforms you from being just another option into someone who commands a higher place in his mind. He begins to understand that your presence is not guaranteed, that keeping you in his life requires effort and respect. Boundaries also serve another essential purpose. They filter. Instead of wasting time on someone who only wants what is easy, your boundaries make it clear that if he is going to be in your life, he needs to show up in the right way. This doesn't mean you play hard to get or manufacture distance for effect. It means you're clear on what you deserve and unwilling to compromise on it. For example, if you value communication, you don't accept someone who disappears for days without explanation. If you value respect, you don't entertain behavior that makes you feel diminished. When you live by those standards, you naturally separate the ones who are serious from the ones who are just passing time. What's fascinating is that men are often drawn more strongly to women who have clear boundaries, even if they resist them at first. A man might push to see how much you'll bend, but once he realizes you won't, he gains a new level of respect. That respect often deepens attraction because boundaries create contrast. In a sea of people who may be willing to give endlessly without expecting much in return, you stand out by being the one who cannot be taken for granted. That rarity makes you more desirable, not less. The very act of having limits elevates the quality of the connection because it ensures that when he earns your time and attention, it actually means something. The real power of boundaries is that they are not about controlling him, They are about honoring you. You can't make someone treat you better by demanding it, but you can decide what you allow into your life. When you enforce those limits calmly and consistently, you create a dynamic where he knows your value without you ever having to spell it out. You don't need to prove you're special. Your actions, your standards, and your boundaries already communicate it. In the end, it's not the endless yes that makes someone unforgettable. It's the selective yes. The yes that carries weight because it comes from someone who knows she deserves the best. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, but in reality, it is one of the greatest strengths when it comes to creating a lasting bond. Many people go through life building walls around themselves, presenting only their polished side, hoping that perfection will attract admiration. What actually creates intimacy and connection is the courage to reveal something real. When you share a part of yourself that is true, whether it's a story, a struggle, or simply an honest laugh at your own expense, you invite someone else into your world in a way that can't be manufactured. For a man who is surrounded by surface-level conversations and guarded interactions, that moment of authenticity is like a breath of fresh air. He may not consciously articulate why, but he feels more drawn to the person who is willing to be real with him than to the ones who hide behind a facade. What makes vulnerability powerful is that it allows someone to see the human behind the image. Everyone is conditioned to put their best foot forward, and while there is nothing wrong with showing your strengths, it is often the imperfect details that create closeness. A man doesn't feel connected to a flawless image because it feels unattainable and distant. He feels connected to the person who can admit they've made mistakes, who can share a dream without knowing how it will turn out, or who can talk about something they care about with unfiltered passion. That openness makes him feel like he's getting to know the real person, not just the version meant for public display. And when he feels that privilege, he values it. There's another dimension to vulnerability that is just as important. It creates safety. When you allow yourself to be open, you communicate that it's okay for him to do the same. Men often carry the weight of expectations to be strong, composed, and unemotional, but beneath that, they crave the chance to drop the armor. When you demonstrate vulnerability, you give him permission to lower his guard without fear of judgment. That is when he feels truly seen and accepted, and that is when bonds deepen. In a world where he may feel he has to perform or prove himself constantly, being with someone who makes him feel safe to be imperfect is rare and unforgettable. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing your deepest secrets to someone who hasn't earned your trust. It's about allowing your genuine self to shine through instead of hiding it behind layers of control. It can be as simple as admitting you're nervous about something, letting yourself laugh too hard at a joke, or sharing an opinion that matters to you even if you're unsure how it will be received. These little moments of truth carry more weight than trying to appear polished all the time. They show him that you're real, that you trust yourself enough to be open, and that you're not afraid of connection. The beauty of vulnerability is that it's both disarming and memorable. A man will not recall every detail of what you said or did, but he will remember the feeling of closeness that came from that moment when you let him in. He may have endless people trying to impress him, but very few willing to show themselves honestly. That honesty is what makes you stand out, because when he looks back, he won't think of you as just another option. He will remember the unique intimacy of being allowed into a space that most people never get to see. Energy is one of those things that people often underestimate, yet it is the very quality that makes someone unforgettable. You don't have to be the most beautiful person in the room, the most accomplished, or even the most charismatic on the surface, but the way you make someone feel with your energy leaves a lasting mark. A man might meet many women who are impressive in different ways, but he won't think about all of them once he leaves. He will think about the one who carried an energy that shifted the atmosphere, the one who made him feel something different, the one whose presence lingered even after she was gone. That kind of energy doesn't come from effort, it comes from alignment with who you are and the confidence to let that shine without forcing it. The mistake many people make is believing that to stand out, they need to constantly perform or compete. They believe they have to be louder, more noticeable, or more aggressive in order to be chosen. What they don't realize is that true presence doesn't need to fight for attention. When you walk into a room comfortable with yourself, when your body language is open, when your smile is genuine, you radiate something that people naturally gravitate toward. That kind of energy is effortless, but it speaks volumes. A man can sense when someone is trying too hard, and he can also sense when someone is at ease with themselves. The latter is far more magnetic because it creates comfort and curiosity at the same time. Energy is not about always being upbeat or cheerful either, it's about being present. Too many people are physically in the moment but mentally elsewhere, worrying about how they look, what to say next, or how they're being perceived. That creates tension, and tension makes it hard to connect. When you are truly present, your energy communicates that you are engaged, listening, and genuinely connected to what's happening right now. That presence makes him feel like he's the only person in the world at that moment, and that feeling is unforgettable. In a sea of distractions, being fully present is rare, and that rarity is what makes someone stand out. Another important part of energy is how you make someone feel about themselves. A man might not remember every word you said, but he will remember whether he felt lighter, inspired, or valued when he was around you. The person who makes him feel capable, who makes him laugh, who brings out the best in him, is the one he will continue to think about. Energy is contagious. If yours brings positivity, warmth, or even a sense of calm, it becomes something he doesn't want to lose. That doesn't mean you need to be endlessly cheerful or put on a happy face all the time. It simply means being authentic in a way that contributes something meaningful to the dynamic instead of draining it. At its core, energy is the combination of presence, authenticity, and confidence. It's not about competing with the crowd or proving yourself against other options. It's about the way you carry yourself and the space you create for him when he's with you. If your energy makes him feel seen, respected, and alive, then no matter how many options he has, you will be the one who rises above them all. At the end of the day, it isn't about competing with every other option he has. And it isn't about trying harder, looking better, or doing more. It's about realizing that what makes you unforgettable is already in you. When you understand the value of attention, when you dare to be authentic, when you create emotional impact, when you hold strong boundaries, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and when you bring the kind of energy that changes the room, you don't need to fight for a place in his life. You become the person he remembers, the person he values, the person he chooses, not because you demanded it, but because you inspired it. And once you do that, it doesn't matter how many other options he has, because none of them will feel like you.